Every great transformation begins in a place no one else can see. Before the world notices your success, before your family celebrates your achievements, before your dreams become reality, there is a silent battle taking place within your own mind. It is the conversation you have with yourself when no one is listening. It is the voice that whispers, "You're not enough, you'll never make it, or why even try?" Those words may seem harmless at first, but over time they become invisible chains, keeping brilliant people trapped in ordinary lives. The greatest prison is not built with walls of stone. It is built with thoughts that convince you to stop believing in your own potential. Yet the remarkable truth is that the same mind capable of creating fear is also capable of creating courage. The same imagination that pictures failure can just as powerfully imagine possibility. Every sunrise offers a quiet reminder that darkness never has the final word. And every new day gives you another opportunity to decide which thoughts deserve a home in your heart. You are not here to carry every doubt that has ever been spoken over your life. You are not meant to inherit every fear handed down through disappointment, rejection, or regret. You were given the ability to choose, and that choice begins with the thoughts you entertain. Imagine what your life could become if you stopped arguing for your limitations and started fighting for your future. Imagine the doors that would open if you refused to let yesterday's failures define tomorrow's opportunities. Your mind is like fertile ground. Whatever you consistently plant will eventually grow. Plant fear, and fear will multiply. Plant hope, discipline, and belief, and they too will take root until they become stronger than every obstacle standing before you. The journey ahead is not about pretending life is easy or denying that challenges exist. It is about discovering that your greatest strength has never been the absence of struggle. It has always been your ability to rise above the stories that tell you that you cannot. Today is the day to silence the voice that has underestimated you for far too long and awaken the one that has been waiting patiently to remind you of who you truly are. Negative thinking often feels permanent because it repeats itself so consistently that we begin to mistake it for the truth. A thought crosses your mind once, then again, and before long it sounds like your own identity. You tell yourself that you are not talented enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, or not capable enough. Eventually, these thoughts stop feeling like opinions and start feeling like facts. But there is an important distinction that changes everything. A habit is something you practice, while an identity is who you believe you are. Negative thinking is a habit. It is learned through repetition, shaped by experiences, influenced by the voices around you, and strengthened every time you choose to believe it without questioning it. Since it is learned, it can also be unlearned. Think about how habits are formed. No one wakes up one morning with a deeply rooted pattern overnight. Every habit begins with repetition. The first time you doubt yourself after making a mistake, it feels temporary. The 10th time, it becomes familiar. The 100th time, it feels automatic. Your brain is designed to conserve energy by creating patterns. It notices what you repeat and builds mental pathways that make those thoughts easier to access. If you repeatedly focus on failure, your mind begins to search for more evidence that supports failure. If you constantly expect disappointment, you start interpreting ordinary challenges as proof that nothing will ever improve. The habit becomes so automatic that you no longer realize you are choosing those thoughts. Many people carry negative thinking because of painful experiences. A harsh criticism from a teacher, rejection from someone they loved, a failed business, or years of being compared to others can quietly shape how they see themselves. Those experiences may leave emotional scars, but they do not define a person's worth. A difficult chapter is not the entire story. Yet when negative thinking becomes habitual, people allow yesterday's pain to write tomorrow's expectations. They stop taking risks, stop speaking up, stop believing in possibilities, and slowly build a life around fear instead of purpose. One of the greatest mistakes people make is saying, "This is just who I am." That sentence gives power to a habit that should be challenged instead of accepted. Someone who constantly worries may believe they were simply born that way. Someone who always expects failure may think they are just being realistic. But realism is not the same as hopelessness. Caution is not the same as surrender. Recognizing problems is healthy, but living under the constant belief that nothing good can happen is a habit that deserves to be questioned. Changing this habit begins with awareness. You cannot replace thoughts you never notice. Pay attention to the conversations happening inside your mind throughout the day. Notice how often you criticize yourself for small mistakes or predict failure before you even begin. Ask yourself whether those thoughts are supported by evidence or simply repeated assumptions. Many negative beliefs lose their power the moment they are examined honestly. What once seemed like certainty often turns out to be fear wearing the disguise of truth. As new habits replace old ones, your mind slowly begins to respond differently. Instead of immediately saying, "I can't," you begin asking, "How can I?" Instead of assuming the worst, you start looking for opportunities to learn and improve. This transformation does not happen because life suddenly becomes easier. It happens because your thinking becomes stronger than your doubts, allowing confidence to grow through consistent practice rather than perfect circumstances. Your inner voice is one of the most powerful forces in your life because it is the one conversation that never stops. Long after other people have finished speaking, your own thoughts continue to shape the way you see yourself, your opportunities, and your future. Every decision you make is influenced by what you quietly believe deep inside. If your inner voice constantly tells you that you are incapable, you will hesitate before taking chances. If it reminds you that every challenge is an opportunity to grow, you will approach life with courage instead of fear. The words you repeat to yourself become the foundation upon which your confidence, resilience, and actions are built. Many people underestimate the impact of self-talk because it is invisible. No one else hears it, yet it affects every aspect of daily life. Imagine two people facing the same obstacle. One says, "This is impossible. I'll probably fail." The other says, "This is difficult, but I can learn what I need to succeed." Both individuals have the same circumstances, but their inner voices create entirely different outcomes. The first person becomes discouraged before even beginning, while the second moves forward with determination. Success often begins long before visible results appear. It starts with the quiet belief that progress is possible. The mind naturally searches for evidence to support what it already believes. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are unlucky, you will notice every setback while ignoring your victories. If you convince yourself that people do not appreciate you, you may overlook acts of kindness and focus only on moments of rejection. This mental habit strengthens whatever message your inner voice repeats most often. That is why it is essential to become aware of the stories you tell yourself. Your mind listens to your words, even when you speak them silently. Negative self-talk often disguises itself as honesty. People say, "I'm just being realistic," when they are actually limiting themselves. There is a difference between recognizing a challenge and predicting defeat. A realistic person acknowledges obstacles while believing they can overcome them. A negative inner voice assumes failure before making an effort. This mindset quietly steals opportunities because it convinces people not to apply for the job, not to start the business, not to speak up in meetings, or not to pursue the dream that has been waiting inside them for years. Your future is shaped not only by the actions you take, but also by the beliefs that inspire those actions. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep moving despite uncertainty. Every encouraging thought strengthens your willingness to try again after disappointment. Every hopeful belief gives you another reason to continue when progress feels slow. Great achievements are rarely the result of one extraordinary moment. They are built through thousands of ordinary decisions influenced by a healthy and encouraging inner dialogue. Changing your inner voice requires patience because old patterns do not disappear overnight. You must intentionally replace criticism with encouragement, doubt with curiosity, and fear with possibility. Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," remind yourself, "I'm still learning." Instead of saying, "I always fail," tell yourself, "Every attempt teaches me something valuable." These are not empty affirmations designed to ignore reality. They are deliberate choices to build a mindset that supports growth rather than defeat. Over time, these new thoughts become familiar, then automatic, and eventually they shape a future that once seemed impossible. Because your life consistently follows the direction of the voice you choose to believe. Fear rarely arrives with loud announcements or dramatic warnings. More often, it enters quietly through small moments of doubt that seem harmless at first. A single disappointment becomes the reason to expect another. One mistake convinces you that you are incapable. One rejection persuades you that you are unworthy. When these thoughts are repeated day after day, fear grows stronger because it is constantly being fed by your own attention. Like a fire that becomes larger with every piece of wood placed upon it, fear gains power every time you nourish it with self-criticism, worry, and imagined failure. It is not always the size of the challenge that determines your future. It is often the size of the fear you allow to grow inside your mind. Self-criticism is one of fear's favorite tools because it disguises itself as improvement. Many people believe they are helping themselves by constantly pointing out every flaw, every weakness, and every imperfection. They think that being harsh on themselves will somehow make them stronger. In reality, relentless self-criticism often produces the opposite effect. Instead of creating motivation, it creates hesitation. Instead of building discipline, it weakens confidence. A person who constantly hears an inner voice saying, "You're not good enough," eventually begins to believe that trying is pointless. Fear thrives in an environment where encouragement is absent and every mistake is treated as proof of failure. Consider how a child learns to walk. Falling is expected. No one watches a toddler stumble and concludes that walking is impossible. Every fall is seen as part of learning, yet as adults we often hold ourselves to a completely different standard. We expect perfection from the beginning, and when we fall short, we criticize ourselves mercilessly. Fear grows because we stop seeing mistakes as lessons and start seeing them as evidence that we should quit. This unrealistic expectation creates a cycle where fear prevents action, lack of action prevents growth, and the absence of growth appears to confirm the fear. Doubt also has a remarkable ability to imagine futures that do not exist. Before giving a presentation, you picture embarrassing yourself. Before applying for a new opportunity, you imagine rejection. Before starting a business, you imagine losing everything. The mind becomes skilled at creating detailed stories about failure, even though none of those events have actually happened. Fear convinces you to prepare for disasters instead of possibilities. It steals today's peace by making you live inside tomorrow's uncertainties. Most of the things we worry about never happen exactly as we imagine, yet the emotional burden they create is very real. Breaking this cycle begins with refusing to feed fear. Every time you challenge a negative assumption, you weaken its influence. Every time you take a small step despite uncertainty, you prove that courage is stronger than anxiety. Courage is not waiting until fear disappears. Courage is moving forward while fear is still whispering in your ear. The more often you choose action over avoidance, the less authority fear has over your decisions. It is also important to replace self-condemnation with self-compassion. Being kind to yourself does not mean lowering your standards or making excuses. It means recognizing that growth is a process, not a performance. You can acknowledge mistakes without attacking your character. You can admit that you have weaknesses while still believing in your ability to improve. This balanced perspective allows confidence to develop naturally because it is rooted in progress rather than perfection. Every successful person has encountered fear, disappointment, and moments of uncertainty. What separates those who move forward from those who remain stuck is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear become the loudest voice in their lives. When you stop feeding your mind with endless doubt and harsh self-judgment, fear begins to lose the strength it once held, creating space for hope, resilience, and the quiet confidence that grows each time you choose belief over intimidation. Limiting beliefs are invisible barriers that often have more power than real obstacles. They are the quiet assumptions that tell you, "I'm too old to start over, I'm not talented enough, people like me never succeed," or "it's too late to change." These beliefs rarely arrive with evidence. Instead, they are built from past disappointments, criticism, fear, or comparisons with others. Over time, they become deeply rooted, influencing every decision you make. The tragedy is not that these beliefs exist, but that many people never question them. They accept them as permanent truths and unknowingly shape their lives around them. Yet every limiting belief can be challenged, and every challenge begins with one powerful decision. Choosing action over assumption. Action has a unique ability to expose the lies that fear tells. A person may believe they are incapable of speaking in public, but after giving a small presentation, they realize they survived. Someone may believe they are not creative enough to start a business, yet after taking the first step, they discover skills they never knew they possessed. Every meaningful action becomes evidence that your limitations are often far smaller than your imagination has led you to believe. Confidence is not built by waiting until you feel fearless. It is built by acting despite uncertainty and allowing experience to replace false assumptions. Purposeful action is different from random activity. Staying busy does not automatically lead to growth. Purposeful action means taking deliberate steps that move you closer to the person you want to become. If you want to become healthier, purposeful action may be choosing a nutritious meal or taking a daily walk. If you want to become more confident, it may be speaking up once during a meeting or introducing yourself to someone new. If you dream of writing a book, purposeful action is not merely thinking about ideas, but sitting down to write a page every day. Small actions performed consistently have the power to transform your identity far more effectively than occasional bursts of motivation. Many people wait for inspiration before they begin. They believe they must feel confident before taking action. In reality, confidence often follows action rather than preceding it. A musician becomes skilled by practicing through mistakes. An athlete becomes stronger through repeated training. A leader develops wisdom by making difficult decisions, learning from failures, and continuing forward. Growth is not the reward for confidence. Confidence is the reward for persistent growth. Every small victory sends a message to your mind that says, "I can do hard things." That message gradually replaces years of doubt with evidence built through personal experience. Limiting beliefs also lose their power when you stop comparing your beginning to someone else's success. Every person has a different journey, different struggles, and different opportunities. Comparing yourself to those who are years ahead only creates discouragement. Instead, compare today's version of yourself with the person you were yesterday. Even a small improvement is proof that progress is happening. Lasting change is rarely dramatic. It is usually the result of ordinary choices repeated with extraordinary consistency. There will be moments when setbacks occur despite your best efforts. Purposeful action does not guarantee immediate success, but it guarantees progress in wisdom, resilience, and experience. Every failure contains information that success cannot teach. It reveals weaknesses that can be strengthened, strategies that can be improved, and lessons that prepare you for future opportunities. People who achieve lasting success are not those who avoid failure, but those who refuse to let failure become their identity. When limiting beliefs are replaced with purposeful action, life begins to change from the inside out. Your thoughts become more hopeful because your experiences provide new evidence. Your confidence grows because it is supported by consistent effort rather than empty wishes. Your future expands because you are no longer imprisoned by assumptions about what you cannot do. Step by step, action reshapes belief. Belief strengthens determination, and determination opens doors that once seemed permanently closed. A resilient mind is not something people are born with. It is something they develop through the choices they make every single day. Many assume that mentally strong people have never experienced heartbreak, failure, rejection, or disappointment. The truth is quite the opposite. Resilient people have faced difficulties just like everyone else, but they have trained themselves to respond differently. Instead of allowing painful moments to define their future, they use those moments as opportunities to grow. Resilience is not about avoiding life's storms. It is about learning how to stand firm while the storm is still raging. This strength is not built in one extraordinary moment, but through countless ordinary decisions made consistently over time. Every day presents small choices that quietly shape the way you think. You can choose to focus on what went wrong, or you can focus on what you learned. You can spend hours complaining about circumstances beyond your control, or you can invest that energy into improving what is within your reach. You can allow one criticism to ruin your confidence, or you can remember the many moments when you succeeded despite obstacles. These decisions may seem insignificant on their own, but together they create the habits that define your character. Just as drops of water eventually fill an ocean, daily choices gradually build a mind that can withstand pressure without breaking. Perfect circumstances rarely exist. If you wait for life to become easier before developing a positive mindset, you may wait forever. There will always be unexpected setbacks, financial pressures, difficult relationships, and moments of uncertainty. The person who depends on ideal conditions for happiness will constantly feel disappointed because life is unpredictable. However, the person who develops resilience understands that peace comes from within, rather than from circumstances. They learn to adapt instead of giving up, to adjust instead of complaining, and to keep moving even when the path is uncertain. One powerful daily choice is the decision to control your response, rather than trying to control everything around you. You cannot control how other people behave, what opportunities appear, or what unexpected challenges arise. What you can control is your attitude, your effort, and your willingness to continue. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of feeling powerless whenever life becomes difficult, you begin to recognize that your greatest strength lies in how you respond. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice patience, wisdom, and determination. Gratitude is another habit that strengthens resilience. It does not mean ignoring pain or pretending that everything is perfect. It means refusing to let hardship blind you to the good that still exists. Even during difficult seasons, there are lessons to learn, people who care, abilities to develop, and opportunities to grow. A grateful mind naturally becomes more hopeful because it trains itself to notice possibilities instead of limitations. Over time, this outlook makes it easier to recover from setbacks because hope remains alive even when circumstances are difficult. Discipline also plays a vital role in building a resilient mind. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline keeps you moving when emotions fluctuate. Some days you will feel inspired, while other days you may feel exhausted or discouraged. A resilient person does not rely solely on feelings to determine their actions. They continue practicing healthy habits, pursuing meaningful goals, and honoring their commitments even when enthusiasm is absent. These consistent actions strengthen confidence because they prove that you are capable of remaining faithful to your purpose regardless of temporary emotions. The most remarkable transformations are often invisible at first. Every time you choose courage over fear, gratitude over bitterness, patience over frustration, and action over excuses, you strengthen your mind in ways that cannot immediately be seen. Eventually, those daily choices become your character shapes your destiny, and you discover that true resilience has never depended on living a perfect life, but on consistently choosing thoughts and actions that move you forward, no matter what challenges appear along the way.